Welcome to another episode of Condition Red Radio. I'm Philip Johnson. We're in the studio along with my co-host Josh Beal
Yo,
of
what's up, guys?
Offensive Industries. And today we are going to be talking to Ryan Atkinson, aka Fieldworks, for all you peeps on the grams. So Ryan, just to start things off, I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce yourself. Just tell us a little bit about you, your background, what you do.
All right. My name is Ryan Atkinson. I handle security matters for celebrity types, mainly rock and roll bands that are out on tour around the world. And I found the niche almost 20 years ago. And it's a small group of people that handle pretty much all the celebrities that travel around playing music for mass crowds. So it's an interesting group of guys. And I fell in there, and I've been doing it everywhere in 53 countries and every U.S. state for the last 19 years.
Wow. How did you get into executive protection?
It's funny because you can't really classify what I do as any kind of protection work. It's its own animal because I work in a fringe area. So I could only name about 12 people that do security for the folks that I do security for. And it's the same people since I started.
Gotcha.
So it's weird.
So it's a revolving door of people, like the same couple of people then?
Yeah, we bounce back to each other. We're all on our own thing, and there's guys that work for companies. There's guys that are independent in between, whatever it is, free agent, you name it. But
cool.
we know each other pretty well. And I was playing football at the University of Kansas. I got a scholarship to play football in the Big 12 back in the 90s, and graduated in 2002. I met some guys out in Kansas City that were doing security for people like Pearl Jam, Christina Aguilera, Marilyn Manson, etc.
Wow.
And a guy named Pete Beadle was the big name at the time. And Pete liked me. He interviewed me, took me out with on a couple of shows. I had never gone to concerts really when I started, believe it or not. I wasn't really into it.
And
it wasn't
now
my
you're
thing.
a veteran.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny how it works.
That's
that
crazy.
way.
Like, how many shows do you think you've seen now at this point after like 19 years in the game and having to be there like multiple times, multiple shows?
Oh, you could just do 19 times 200, I guess, and get a
Wow.
round number.
That's
You know?
insane.
Oh,
So it's funny people avoid crowds and whatnot, and I'm just right in there, controlling
Right in the
it.
middle of it all.
Yeah. So I met Pete and his partners out in Kansas City, and he was a big firm at the time. He had heard about me and what I'd been doing previous to that, and the local bars in Lawrence, Kansas. And he told me if I could keep my hands to myself, since I was getting my bachelor's degree at the time, that I'd be a perfect candidate. You know.
Nice.
And
very cool.
yeah, so he put me out with a couple of bands to start, just to get my feet wet. I did stuff with the Eagles and with the band Korn and Blink-182.
Cool.
And that was my first experience to concerts and backstage areas and whatnot. And I was thrown in the deep end with the Eagles. You know, I didn't know what the hell was going on and what I was doing, so I just paid attention and took mental notes and just kept moving. So it worked out. A couple months later, after paying my quote unquote dues, Pete put me out with the band Pearl Jam, and that was my first tour. So I was one of two guys doing venue security with an additional personal security on staff. So there's three of us total.
That's crazy. So when you go out with a band like that, do you have like a typical day? Like these are all the things that need to happen in this time period, or is it just like every time you're out is different?
No, you try to control the day, right? So when you're part of a staff, you're in charge of what happens. So you dictate what happens, and there's a lot of things that you have to work with the local staff and promoter and the building staff to try to. There's little equations throughout the day that you have to figure out. As you get better at the job, you start doing that in advance. That's called your security advance, obviously, and that's something that's done either months in advance, or weeks in advance, or if things, worst comes to worst, days in advance. But you figure out as much as possible to get off your plate for day of show activities, because then it becomes hectic and crazy, and you can't pound that much work for a couple of, 2-man team, for instance, in the stretch of one day, and do it every single day or every other day. It's just too much. So your advance, the strength of your advance and your rapport with the people locally is a big deal. So obviously the longer you're in the game, the more people that you know, and the less words you have to speak, right? So you already know what the norms are and what to expect and what's expected of you. So you find the in between, and there's always something that pops up because the world's ever changing. But I've been through the U.S. for that many years, right? So there's a lot of the same people. Some people are new, but they know that I've been around a while. So you could figure out
the
a lot of
faces and stuff.
yeah, exactly. You could figure out if people have been around based on the way they talk and the questions they ask, etc. So, yeah.
Cool. So what's one of the common misconceptions about like what you do?
I think that in some weird cases, people think that I guess the simple word for me would be bodyguard, but that has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
Really, it's kind of a joke at this point. And people like me have taken control of the word roadie.
Mhm.
So I travel with a group of bandits of 80 deep at any time, right? So 80, 120, 40, whatever. There's a lot of people that travel the world nonstop. And, the day of the roadie is over. So we've taken that word and called ourselves roadie, right? So a lot of people are educated. I mean, I have my bachelor's degree. A huge part of my staff now has bachelor's degrees and specialized degrees from music, schools, et cetera. And they're really technical people. You don't hire someone to level your sound in a stadium that's out of a nightclub,
Yeah, it's totally different. It's a totally different scene.
Exactly. I mean, we roll with 16 different departments and everyone has specialized training. So it's kind of a weird thing. I think some people think that security people that handle security for celebrities and go around killing people or beating the shit out of people. It's like,
Because that's what you hear on TV and Facebook, right?
It's not gonna happen. I just it's never happened.
Yeah.
So there's a misconception about the amount of physical work you have to do, force on force or whatever it is, or going hands on with people. And,
Right.
if you're a knucklehead, you could find plenty of people to beat on. But if you're a professional, you keep your hands to yourself.
Avoid that shit.
Yeah, because it ends up on TMZ. It ends up in your news.
Right. No, absolutely. You ever feel like you're in a position where somebody's like trying to like push buttons to try to get somebody to do something just for a payday?
Oh, that's my life. Yeah. I wake up and wait for people to fuck with me. It's just that's how it goes. I spent X amount of years dealing with the paparazzi, almost a decade dealing with paparazzi in LA and around the world, really.
Mm-hmm.
And you just have to learn the game and just learn what gets in your way, what doesn't get in your way, when you have to say, we have to change things. Celebrities don't like to change their path, so you pretty much live on their schedule and they move around the way they want to move around. Their job is to interact.
We're going to Starbucks right now.
Yeah, that's just what it is, and if it has to be a big deal for you to, change things. You don't have a team to rely on. You don't have advanced people everywhere you go. You're on your own.
Right.
So
with that said, that kind of like you said, living on people's schedule and things like that. And I know this is kind of like dangerous territory. So if you don't want to answer this question, feel free to like skip it. But is there anybody that you've worked for or with that you're like, dude, this person is just out of their mind? Like, this is the most difficult individual I've ever had to endure in my life.
Yeah.
I knew you'd have one.
So there are, and that's the thing, that's the juicy stuff, right? So part of my job is realizing when you're going to hang yourself, and when you can get into an area where, oh God, I signed a non-disclosure agreement. I signed paperwork that's saying I won't talk about this person, and then over 18 years, you're like, you have no fucking idea what you signed over the years. Unless I started at 22 and I was still pickled from the bar in Kansas, so you lose sight of things. You're traveling around, you're spinning around like a top everywhere, and you really don't realize what the amount of things you signed throughout your life. So whether or not people care or not, it's really besides the point. People have management companies and lawyers that protect them, and that's their gig. And I'm an extension of those people.
Right.
So I've had people. I've worked for people that are a pain in the ass and people that are undesirable or they have weird things about them. And I've come across a lot of really, really well-known people that I've worked for. I've been hired to do a job with, and they're in weird spots of their life.
Right.
Going through some weird shit. Yeah.
Oh, I worked for a guy. I won't say his name, but somewhere around the world, you probably figure out who it is. But I worked for a guy who's really, really famous. If I said his name, every single person would know it. And his counterpart was sleeping with her security person. And I knew the guy. and then he got fired, and I got hired to replace him, and that was awkward.
Yeah.
It's a weird situation to be in when your buddy was sleeping with some dude's wife, and it's like the circumstances are way beyond you when it comes to that level, but
Yeah.
you still get caught in between, or if someone has some sort of drug issue or substance abuse issue, and you get hired and you don't know about it. That's happened to me too. I get hired to get flown to somewhere in Western Europe, and I find out my client has a drug problem, and you're like, well,
Or gets caught with fucking drugs on them.
Yeah,
But,
you just sign up for a 2-year gig, and you're like in whatever country. I won't say what it is; they'll give it away. But then it's like you realize all these things. Everything changes. Your whole world changes. Because that's your job to look after this person. Now it's become,
right. Plus, do you ever feel like you're in a situation where it's like you're the only voice of reason? Like this person just lives in an echo chamber, surrounded by people like, "Oh, you're the greatest, dude. You're the greatest. You're the greatest." And you're like, you got to do this, you got to do that. And they're like, I don't have to listen to you. Who are you? Everybody knows I'm the greatest because that's all I hear every day, all day.
Yeah, when someone's sold 100 million records, it's hard to tell them what to do. It's especially me. I look really young for my age. I'm 40 years old, but I look younger. And sometimes guys, if they don't read the resume, they don't read the paper, and their management hires me, they don't know who I am. They don't know me.
You're just some dude.
You're just some dude. You roll in, and you're not going to drop your resume on people. You just don't do that, right? So, you start name dropping, and you're the giant douchebag, right? So,
maybe you could carry around like a laminated thing and be like, just read this real quick, and then get back to me in like 5 minutes. We'll see what you think now.
We call that resume on a rope. Actually, that's a thing.
Oh, that is a thing.
Yeah, some roadies that might be a little bit newer, they'll wear all their laminates from every tour they've been on their belt, and we say, "Oh, the resume on a rope." Here we go.
That is awesome.
Guys, you need to knock it off. Take that shit off. So when you get into the world that I'm in, nobody cares. Like, just do the job now, and then your resume can't save you. Like whether people like you or not, or you're doing a good job, you can't hide behind it. You have to do your gig now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So with that being said, what would you say makes a good executive protection specialist? Like what makes you good at your job? Like
that's a weird
for somebody
thing.
that would be new to.
So the deal is, when I travel around the world, people ask me literally every day how they could do what I do. I'm
sure they do.
And immediately through my head, and through the years, I've probably verbalized several different scenarios of like, I don't know, or what, give me your name and number, and anything in between, right?
Throw it out as
like I'll call you at Christmas, right? Yeah. So I'm like, first of all, you don't know what I do. You're just kind of outside looking in, and you don't live it because you don't live the 20-hour days I live. You're not in a different country every other day. You can't gauge out what someone's willing to do when it gets down to that schedule. You don't know about them yet. So it's really hard to get someone new out. It's only been a couple times in the last couple decades where I've been able to get someone out, and they become a monster, really good at the job, and a well-known name. And you take pride in them because you're like, oh, I hooked them up with the job, but at the same time, they did their own shit.
Right.
The guy that got me in the game, I respect him. I love the guy, but he didn't do the work that I did for 18 years.
You made a name for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, you're apprehensive. You vouch for somebody, and they turn out to be a total psycho, and they're like, "Oh, gee, thanks, Ryan, for putting this nutbag in my life."
You know what? And that's happened on many levels. I would never say names, right? But I've put guys that are really well known out on the road, and they've completely failed with giant clients. And then I get the phone call at midnight. Or these,
dude, what the fuck?
Oh, these guys that are like crazy assassins from other parts, headhunters from whatever, and it just doesn't work out because you know what? I don't like you, and that's really what it comes down to at the end of the day is how personable you are, and if a wide array of people can get down with you in that way, where you're invited into their personal life. So.
Right. So I know we were talking about, running into trouble out there and people trying to goad you into bullshit confrontations and stuff like that. And this doesn't have to be you. So this is your disclaimer on this one. But just any kind of insane, violent confrontation that ever happened out on the road might not have been you. Could have been totally somebody else. You just happened to be there and witness.
Oh. So violence is a thing. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean,
definitely.
It's weird. It's hard to talk about doing violence to people when you skated away from it,
Right.
But it's 90% customer service and being nice, right? And just being a guy that's upbeat and doesn't pull their personal bullshit into the world because no one cares.
Yeah.
You show up and you do your thing. If you're having trouble at home or there's someone sick, nobody cares.
Yeah, that's just got to stay at home.
Yeah, and then there's 10% where at the end of the day, your job is to stop problems,
right.
at a number of different levels, whether it's legally, whether it's, with a promoter or a building, or personally, which means you and someone else or a group of people. I mean, there's such a wide array of things that happen in my world. It's not specific, so you can't really you can draw scenarios all day.
Right.
And in over 2 decades, you come into a lot of them. And you learn hard lessons throughout those scenarios because you can't put yourself in that scenario. You can't put yourself in Brazil, with a bunch of people like jumping off the top of your hotel, or like you don't know what to do.
Wait, what?
You don't
say that again.
Yeah.
Jumping off the top of a hotel.
Yeah. So I worked for a massive rock band that sold out a massive stadium show somewhere in Latin America, and people didn't get tickets. They didn't win any giveaways. They sold out, within a couple of seconds. And these people killed themselves.
What?
And it's like, you get into a situation where you're trying to make sense of it, and people look to you for like, what do we do
now?
Gonna happen? What can we do? And you're like, I don't fucking know.
I bet we could have added an extra show.
Yeah, there's no book for that. And then you get guilted into shit when you didn't do anything.
Well,
right?
you should have done this or said that.
Yeah, you can't be responsible for that kind of level of
And
craziness.
you can't expect
That's
that
insane.
kind of shit anyways.
No. So there's weird scenarios, like I worked for a group that was, oh God, what was the question again? I just wrote it.
I don't know. You totally just melted my mind with people jumping off the roof because they didn't get tickets.
It's not.
I don't even know what to do with my hands right now.
Yeah. So there's weird, intense stuff where you have to do, you have to go hands on with people, and I've gone through a lot of that stuff, but it's all pretty basic. I think anyone that goes hands on with people can understand what that means, and you just become good at it after a while. Right. I used to work at these really gangster bars in LA and just beat up on gangbangers, and
right.
I just got really good at it, and I was kind of
That's because you're big as fuck.
Yeah. While we're on that subject, how big a guy are you? Because you're big.
How tall are you?
I'm a shell of my former self. But when I played college football, I measured in at 6'2", 350 pounds. At the time, I was bench pressing around 500 pounds and running a 4.9 second 40.
Dude, when you say you're a shell of yourself, though, that's not absolutely true. You're still big, and I've noticed the pictures. I'm like,
you have slimmed down a lot.
Ryan just got ripped. Like I saw your arms, I'm like, oh,
jacked,
you're huge and shredded now.
Thanks for calling me ripped, but the definition of ripped doesn't apply to me in any universe. I'm down to about 250, which is what I weighed when I was a freshman in high school. So,
so you've always been big then.
I've always been a big guy, and people took notice early on, and especially in athletics and whatnot. Mm-hmm. I was always really athletic, and I tried really hard, and I was completely submersed in that. But if there's other big guys out there, that people will try you nonstop. And some folks think that if you're large or you have some sort of presence that people won't mess with you. It's totally
not true.
No,
And,
I've seen
it time and time again.
I've seen it, but because what I tell people, it's like it's the nothing to lose theory. It's like if I go against this guy and I beat his ass, then I'm a hero. Look at me.
Yeah.
But if I lose, then what the fuck? He's a giant. And you didn't really think I was going to win, did you? I just got the guts for going. So either way, you get props for going up against it. You have everything to lose and nothing to gain by being the big guy.
Yeah, it's gnarly. And then, you learn the downside of it, right? So everyone thinks it's kind of cool to beat up people or whatever it is. And then you learn, there's a legal side of that, and there's consequences.
There's paperwork and jail time and
there's a lot of stuff that can happen.
Yeah, that shit's not cool. Do you have like a specific martial arts that you've trained in or techniques that you trained in or anything like that? Or like,
no, you know what? I was always just that big guy that, I was a high school wrestler. And I was really talented at wrestling. I was captain of the wrestling team, et cetera. And
they say wrestling, but that's your thing right there. When people say I don't have any martial arts background, but I wrestled, I'm like, well, stop right there. Wrestling is probably the ultimate martial art. Taking somebody down and being able to control them on the ground. There's nothing better than that. I mean, submissions, that's great, but just being able to physically control somebody on the ground goes a long, 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 long way.
Yeah, and I wrestled in high school in the state of California, and it's a bigger state than others. And when you get into wrestling in high school and you build up, I was a late starter. I wasn't my thing. No one really introduced me to that. And wrestling coach was a judo champion from Jamaica, and he brought me in. And he showed me some throws, and he was like, you know what? I was already a football quote unquote star at that time, right? And he said, you can get a scholarship for this, and this is you can get a dual scholarship, whatever it is. Why don't you jump in? I jumped in as a leader from the football team, became captain of the wrestling team, went to the state level in California within 1 year. So, unfortunately for me, that year that I was went all the way to state was when all the really, really talented guys were in California in heavyweight division.
Of course.
Near me, So it was like really talented Olympic guys, So,
yeah.
And they were all freestyle wrestlers, etc. So I was always losing to those guys. I never got pinned ever. No one's ever put me on my back, believe it or not. And they would just beat me on points because they knew stuff I didn't. And that's kind of where I realized, oh, shit, I'm not going to go that far in this. No matter how much harder strength you have, you're going to lose at some point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's always somebody that's better than you.
Yeah, especially wrestling is one of those things too. You've got like kids, especially in the Midwest. Like when I wrestled in high school, there were kids like it wasn't that popular in the South. So you started wrestling maybe middle school. If you were early, high school was most people. But then kids transfer in. Like some kid came in from Nebraska, some kid came from Iowa. They had been wrestling since they were 5 years old. You're just never going to be able to back up and get that level of skill.
Yeah, I guess that was the one thing that put me. Yeah, the one thing that put me aside was just my sheer strength. I was retard strong. I know I shouldn't say that word. I shouldn't say that word, but that's how I feel.
Yeah. Josh just made it worse by making sounds too. So
yeah, that was just retard strong
guy.
in high school.
It's okay.
So when I grabbed somebody, it was hard for them to get away from me, and I realized that. And you play off that as much as you can until you fake it till you can't make it. Yeah. So,
very cool. So with all that said and everything about your background, do you ever stop and think if this went away tomorrow and I stopped doing the security thing, what would you do? What would be your backup job?
What's your go-to backup plan?
It's a funny thing, So when you do what I do, 90% of the time you can look around a room and realize that nobody else does what you do. So I'm not surrounded by people that are like me really ever. I mean, unless I'm working on a security team, which is, 50-50 at this point, a lot of artists don't carry a team with them. And if they do, they're split between personal and venue. There's two types of security that do what I do. And I do both. So I can flip-flop between them. I can work with different teams and different people. And I've been around, so people can pick me up. So as far as going away, I've worked in the production world. I work with production people. So these are madmen. These are people that make shit go. If you go to a concert, if you think of the last biggest concert you've gone to, you could look at the stage and realize what an enormous thing that is, and all the shit that goes on the stage. And these are things that happen in different cities, different markets, sometimes different countries every 48 hours. So it takes crazy people to make that shit happen. That's what we call roadies, right? So people that just they don't require sleep. We don't require food. We just go for it. So you're around a bunch of these interesting personalities that do different things. So I've been around these people for a long time, and these people do other things. They don't just do that. So there's a lot of avenues. I mean, it's like a starburst, man. I can just go anywhere. I mean, there's so many different things that I'm exposed to right now.
So that's opened a lot of doors for you that you can just go in. I just
don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what's next. I won't do it forever. And everyone says that. And 18 years later, here I am talking to you. Right? So everyone says whatever they're doing. Oh, this is just until I do this, And you're like, fuck, this is what I do.
This is what I'm still doing.
Yeah, and this travel is the hardest part, So it's the blessing and the curse. I can travel like a motherfucker, right? So I can just go anywhere, anytime, on the drop of a hat, and just stay out there.
Yeah, because you're gone how many days a year usually?
Oh, about 8 months.
Yeah, fuck. Out of 12.
Wow, that's crazy.
That's insane, dude.
So I know you guys, we've messaged each other at some point over the last 2 years where I'm in some weird place.
You're never home. This is like one of the first times I've talked to you in a while that you were home.
Yeah. So that's a skill in itself, right? Just being away from your home base or your home rock. It's really difficult, and it takes special people in your life. You have a special family, So
understanding family.
Yeah. They just have to be, they're just truly unique. And
That's
if
awesome.
it doesn't work for most roadies, or most people that do what I do, it just doesn't work because it's too stressful, So and you guys, everyone goes through bullshit of life and things happen. People pass away, shit happens, financial troubles, whatever. And if you're just not there, people think you're not there, So, and you just have to find a way to make things work. So, which is not always easy when you're working all the time. Right.
No, absolutely. One of the things about your travels too, I will say that you've gotten some of the coolest pictures of the Corvus Combatives patch out in the wild and this places. I'm like, oh my God, I'm having to Google where you are to see where this patch is showing up.
Listen to this one. That's funny you said that because so there's so many things in my head that I can't really access because it's a memory that's kind of buried under nonsense, right? But you just triggered one. I was in Moscow, Russia at the Four Seasons, which is directly across from the Kremlin and the Red Square. And I pulled my backpack out and I put it in the window. And there's a Corvus Combatives patch in my Vertex bag. And I I forget what knife it was. I stuck a knife on top of it and took a picture of it with the Kremlin in the background.
That's awesome.
It's awesome. But then I looked up and across the way at a window that was 6 floors up or whatever it was, directly across me, was some guy staring at me. And if you've ever... And, I immediately pulled my knife out of the window because of this crazy fucking asshole, right? And it's Russia. And if you've been to Russia and you've done security work in Russia, you know that you're being analyzed by everything. You're probably being watched or listened also. The rules are different there. You're on an island, So I found out that Putin was over in the Kremlin and that their security was crazy. I hadn't even been outside the hotel yet.
That is awesome. I definitely remember that picture too. That is one of the coolest pictures of all time. That's awesome.
That guy stared at me. I rarely get spooked or scared or weirded out. But
now I'm gonna have to zoom in the picture and see if I can't see Vladimir looking out the window from somewhere.
Yeah. That was not good.
We're going to have to find that picture in your feed.
That's awesome. I'm putting that back up. I'm going to go through my stuff and find that.
What kind of EDC stuff do you carry on and off the job? Do you get to carry a lot of gear with you when you're traveling or you just keep it light?
Yeah, a lot of times in the U.S., since I've gone out and for years and years, I've gone out and see all these concealed weapon permits, non-resident concealed weapon permits, etc. And then the states that have reciprocity with the state I currently live in, et cetera. You can carry a gun in a lot of states. You got to keep track of that, obviously, because you're moving so fast. You don't want to start breaking the law, right?
Yeah, especially if you have to use it.
Yeah, then you don't want to. You just can't deal with that, and it would end you, right? So. I started getting into knives as a secondary and for, places where I couldn't carry a firearm. And it's kind of always been on me, but in the last 2 years, I've really taken an interest, obviously. And, more recently has been the counter custody stuff, being exposed to what Ed's talking about. And a funny thing about meeting with Ed and doing a course with him was really cool dude, obviously. You guys have met him, I think. And, great stories, it's very rare that people's stories can outweigh the stories I have. Yeah, because I got some too, but I just shut up and I listened. Dude,
I don't want to give it away or unnecessarily plug another one of our podcasts, but if you listen to part 2 with Ed, it might have the funniest story I've ever heard. We were in this exact studio and he told that story, and literally
room. Actually.
We were crying for about a good 5 minutes. So if anybody hasn't heard that, you can fast forward through the whole thing. Just find the story.
Just find
Trust
the story.
me, it's worth it.
It's definitely worth it.
But traveling around, just carry my EDC is constantly changing, and I have to carry other things on me that aren't really part of normal EDC. I carry a radio every day, and sometimes I have to wear an earpiece or cans or giant headsets for extended periods of time, or tools on me for some reason. When there's a staging problem, or maybe there's something that's not on your radar as far as just walking around your city. So I do unique work, right? So. But the counter custody stuff is pretty cool. Interesting thing about Ed was that I met the guy that makes the gear for the people that sell the stuff for Ed now.
Really?
So when I was in England, I met a guy I'll call Carl, and he runs 4 TAC 5 / Oscar Delta.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And I'm the only person I know that's met Carl.
Really?
He's kind of a mysterious dude. And I guess rightfully so. He still does a lot of active stuff. And
that's right. You posted a picture on your storyline that had him with the blurred out face or whatever.
Or the blurred out face.
I was like, no.
Total great man. He is awesome. Nice guy. Came to my hotel. We talked for a while. Went to the gig. Met his family and everything else. And nice dude. And then I started seeing similar things in the U.S. and it was Stately Asset Protection selling them. I'm like, where are you getting this stuff? He's like, well, I'm the distributor for this guy.
Yeah.
And
yeah, he's a good dude. Stately Assets is awesome.
Yeah. So I met the guy that's making this stuff, 2 years ago, and I just he gave me a bag full of crap. And I was like, what is all this shit? But it's all nonsense and worthless unless you know what it is and how to use it, right? So it was pretty cool meeting Ed, him showing me some stuff with the stuff that I had laying around my house for a couple of years, right? So I've always been so insulated in parts where people get abducted. My job is to stay insulated, is to create that padding around myself and others.
Right.
So it can't happen, basically. I mean, it could always happen, but then my job is to try to make sure that it doesn't, right?
Yeah.
Especially in Latin America, Southeast Asia in some parts.
It gets hairy as fuck down there.
Yeah. And, if you're in a giant convoy with, 10 armored cars and, 30 police officers on bikes, it's like, good luck. I guess you could try, but it would be tough. I don't remember the last time someone tried that, but you just go way overboard and you try to protect your, whatever bubble you're traveling in, right?
Right.
Yeah. So EDC is always changing, but I mean, there's basic stuff. My knife gun. You have all your protected credit card stuff, and now I have my counter custody stuff on me. But I've always been a dude that's like, I wear gym clothes every day. When I'm at home, I'm trying to relax. I don't get kitted up. I wear very minimal stuff.
I noticed you carry your 43 a lot.
Yeah, my 43 I'm a big fan of it. I was a 19 guy for a long time, and I got really used to it. And then when the 43 came out, I just was like, I moved to one of the safest places in the country, and the way I move around is very specific and very tailored, So the risk factor is way down, relatively speaking. But if I get into some weird spots, I try to carry a little bit heavier, and I try to have the option available to me, So there's always options, especially when you travel with your own stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So this kind of tailors into everything you were just talking about. But if you've got somebody that's traveling to a foreign country, or even stateside, just somebody that's traveling around a little bit, but they don't have the ability to, they don't have armored cars or police escorts or anything like that. Just from your experience, what would be like a basic tip or two that you would give somebody? Like, I know you don't have all these assets with you or whatever, but these are some things you can do to, put being safe in your favor when you travel. Just like.
Yeah, what's funny is I used to direct people to the State Department websites and to go look at what the regional security officers were posting on the websites, but those guys are basically covering their ass, like if there's any kind of dangerous element in the area, they tell you not to come, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of places in the world now.
Home. It's okay.
Right, it's kind of like doctors when they prescribe medicine or it's on TV. It's like may cause nausea, vomiting, blindness, bleeding out of your, anything that's ever happened, they got to cover it just to cover themselves.
So when it does happen, you're like, well, I told you not to go. So
it's not my fault.
Exactly. So it's kind of hard, I think people put themselves in unnecessary situations, and they subject themselves I don't know, either for the sake of adventure or for the sake of having a story to tell. But I think it's really tailored to the individual and how crazy they're willing to get. I've been in places on my own a lot. And as long as you have those lifelines available, people know where you're at, right? So I'm a hyper communicator. When I'm out traveling around or moving around, and I think things are getting fishy or sketchy, I'm hyper communicating with someone exactly where I'm at and what I'm doing. I'm giving them windows of like, hey, guess what? I'm going to check in every 10 minutes and say, hey, yeah, I'm here now. Hey, I'm here now. And you give these people a dot map of what you're doing and where you're at, right?
Yeah, so they can follow the breadcrumbs if they have to.
Yeah, you leave your, find me on your iPhone with your significant other or whatever it is, and just kind of like they can see the last place you were, where your phone turned off or whatever it is, or if you're tracking yourself. And there's different little tracking devices that work like shit that you could put on, but I've used other cell phones and other types of phones, to kind of stash on your body, but they're not really concealable or they're pretty easy to find. But finding the regional security officer, introducing yourself, telling them where you're going to be, what you're going to be doing, tell the RSO at the U.S. Embassy what's happening, and just introduce yourself, put yourself on the radar. And
so they're aware that you're in the area.
Exactly. That's their job as, United States citizens in country, So put yourself on the radar, find out some updates, get often, get updates often, and then train yourself, in different skill sets that might be applicable, So, There's a lot of different things. There's a lot of different variables that can factor into how safe you are, right? what are you doing in these countries? You know, what exactly are you reviewing 5-star hotels, or are you going to rice paddies and check out the rice? You know, so
or both.
yeah, and I don't have experience doing that because I don't check out rice paddies. I check out major productions and giant stadiums and with police and government officials. You know, that's what I do. So that's my experience, and it's hard for me to dispense advice to people that are doing crazy shit because I don't do that. I stay in my lane, you know.
Right. Pro tip: don't do crazy shit.
Don't do crazy shit. Just have a good time, drink some beers, and go stay in your hotel.
So when did the knife obsession start? Like the crazy collections that you have.
Dude,
like,
you have, we were talking
insane.
about earlier, like Brian has the best knife collection anybody I've ever seen. And because a
All
lot
of
of people
the
might
gels.
have some like really fancy stuff, but you've got like solid, good stuff and then a ton of it.
I think I think a lot of it is luck, believe it or not, and just meeting the right people at the right time online, or being, social media, being social. I'm not really a social media person in the traditional respect. Like, you don't see pictures of my family. You don't see pictures of
Nothing.
much. You don't see a whole lot of work pictures, and I kind of hint at things in places that I'm at, but I don't really show clients on my social media too much.
Yeah.
Unless it's a picture that's already on the internet or something, which is not a big deal for me. I'm not like looking after executives from, Fortune, whatever companies. I'm looking after musicians and people that are public figures, But the knife thing came from me being in weird spots and unable to carry my firearm, But, when I got involved in the pop star world, I was there for about 10 years working around Beverly Hills and North Hollywood, Studio City area with chasing paparazzis down and stalkers and working with threat management units and mental evaluation units, district attorney, you name it. I became very paranoid because I was in a lot of static positions with these crazy people from all over the world that wanted to come to where I was at, and you start setting up crazy elaborate security systems, and you have this weird protocol that you start putting in place for people, and you start building a shell around people and they fucking hate it, So when you try to control someone whose job is to be free and seen, they push back against you like, I'm not going to do that shit. Right. And people always try to reason with you why you're doing what you're doing, and you have to have a good answer for it. So the whole knife thing came from, I got really comfortable using my firearms and training with firearms in that setting, and having permissions and the right permits, et cetera. And then I started going overseas a lot. Again, I took a break for about, I say break. I was still going overseas, but I took a break from multiple clients for about 10 years. And I was working for one really famous pop star. And I'd go overseas with her, but I could never take my firearm, so I always felt exposed. I always felt like there was something that I
fucking
couldn't
naked
have.
and shit.
Yeah, so I got into knives, and I always wanted to have a knife with me and just something, But I always tell people when it comes to this whole knife fighting thing and everything else, I feel way more comfortable with my fists. My fists are very fast, and I got a lot of experience with it. I don't have experience stabbing people because I don't go around stabbing people.
We can change that.
Yeah. But I have experience punching the shit out of people, and I'm good at it. I know what I can do. So that's always my first thing, is just I'm not going to just depend on a knife. It's just a tool, right? So I wanted to learn more about it, really. And just, I started cruising around the internet. I started my bullshit page, and with a name that was fabricated with a buddy who's really well known on Instagram. We just gave me two different names, and I blended them together and took a couple of vowels out, and that's what it is, And then I just
with a dope ass new logo.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
Dove into the wormhole, and just dove down in there, and I just kind of got caught up in some funny discussions and conversations. I'm willing to learn, so I just just kind of listened, watched, bought, traded, sold. Became friends with dudes.
I swear you just
know.
sit on forums bought.
So there's two different kinds of security you could do, right? In my world, there's venue and personal. So if you're venue, you're in charge of all the advanced stuff. You go to the gigs, you communicate with promoters, building staff, etc. You're working nonstop. I'm walking 12 miles a day, doing 20-hour days in a closed space. So it's really weird, really fast. And then there's personal, where you stick with people. And depending on what your client does day to day, they might not do anything, and that doesn't mean you go shopping or walk around, visit cathedrals. You're stuck in the hotel, So I had a client that didn't do anything. And, it's like you try doing nothing every day by yourself, right? So I just started down, I was doing my workouts and just kind of cruising out, like different forums and reading shit, and just kind of trying to learn on my own, just, and
We need to get him
into
into a Libre class, Philip.
Yep, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
We
I
need
had
to
him
make
scout
that a thing.
a few times.
Yeah.
He's an interesting dude for sure. I'm
Hell
down with that dude for sure, yeah. That's the one thing. I've never been scared to train new shit or admit what I'm deficient at or, just kind of, you have to stay humble, right? So a lot of people think I'm a big shit talking dude, but I'm not. I'm really not. It's bullshit, So I'm really not. If you know me face to face, person to person, and you've known me for a while, you just know that I'm down to learn anything, anytime, and I'm down to jump into uncomfortable situations and get weird, So, which you have to do to stay, alive in my world, honestly.
Right, definitely.
We'll stand by for weirdness because when you show up here in April, it's on.
It's gonna be insane.
It's gonna be very strange.
I'll send you guys. Okay, I'll send you some pictures. Yeah, if my shirt comes off within the first hour, you guys are in trouble.
Oh God.
Yeah, man. Well, you know what? You have like an awesome tattoo collection too.
Yeah.
Some really solid stuff.
You're running out of room, bro.
I am all but out of room. I mean, I've got probably like 6 inches of space on my body, and it's not a small body, right? So. When people say, I want to do what you did and cover my entire body, I'm like, shit, you better get started because you know how long this fucking took?
You're going to run out of time before you run out of room.
And you got to be cool with 50% shitty tattoos, because when you're moving that fast in the tattoo world, you're just kind of like, yeah, put that on me.
Throw it on there. Fill in that space.
So I have stuff that I can explain, but it won't make sense to you because you're like, I don't get it. I'm like, yeah, you're not supposed to.
You had to be there.
Yeah, so I just from my toes down, up to my throat, it's all covered, my armpits, butt, everything's done, and I had mentorship early on from some dudes. I used to work for the band Good Charlotte, and Benji and Joel Madden were good friends of mine. They had a dude that used to travel with them named Nick Babbis. They called him Super Nick, and Super Nick was like he was the dude. He was from Baltimore. He was like a hardcore dude, mohawk, fucking tattoos on his face. He was just a dude that was smooth on every level. He was like aeronautical engineer, worked at the Smithsonian.
Wow.
He was just a dude that you just couldn't believe. He was like a Forrest Gump type character,
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of took me under his wing and said, hey, if you want to get tattooed to this level, here's what you do. And he gave me a road map to follow. And then he introduced me to people. And then I met, Corey Miller and all these guys, Larry Garcia, guys in Southern California that were part of these shops that became famous eventually, And at one point, that show LA Inc. that was on all over whatever station, I knew half the people in there because they had been tattooing me in their garages forever, right? Wow. So it was just, I knew the right people. And it was a weird formula of being on tour and being a vagabond and being out there and like traveling with people and with nothing to do besides get tattooed on a tour bus somewhere in Red Deer, Canada, or fucking whatever, So
speaking of Canada, you love Canada, don't you?
I love Canada. I know a lot of Canadians, a lot of powerful Canadians.
Cool. I know you're going with the Canadian thing now. I just thought of it.
Phil knows where I'm going with this. So I remember you said that your collection got put in moose jail for a while.
Oh, shit. Yeah.
Oh, no. Was that like a year ago?
That was
about a year and a half ago, wasn't it?
Maybe a year and a half ago. Yeah.
It's been a while.
Shit, I was still had ring blades at the time, so it seems like longer. But I was doing a tour and it ended in Canada. I think it was in Alberta. I want to say it was in Alberta. Could be wrong. And I know a lot of people in Edmonton. I worked for a massive Edmonton businessman back in the day. And I had my shitload of knives with me. And my knives, you see how many I have.
Yeah.
It's not normal. It's not normal. I admit that, right?
Borderline is as if,
Yeah. It's crazy to see, especially for a screener at an airport, right? So a screener in Edmonton saw my shit, and he, immediately called the police, and Border Patrol came and stopped me at the gate with the dog. They surrounded me. It was overboard, but I get it. And they said, hey, what's up, man? And I was like, I don't know. Like, what do you want? And they just were like, what's up with your luggage, man? And it was just a big deal. And they sat me down. They showed me pictures of all my knives. Like, they sat me down at a Subway that was across from my gate. And
That's awesome.
they showed me pictures of my knives, like 8.5 by 11 glossy photos of my knives while I was boarding my plane. So my plane was boarded already.
Wow.
So I just told them, I'm guessing my luggage is not on the plane. They're like, no, we have it. And they're like, you can't have this shit here, dude. Why do you have this? What are you doing? And this happened not only in Canada, it happened in Sweden, and it happened in Germany twice.
Oh, really?
And yeah, I mean, I've been pulled a few times, and I just kind of learned how to get around
that. Yeah,
how to mask things in my luggage and make it look like they're other things. Or tie them together or tape them together so they don't
stick them in the bottom of your shoes with some socks and shit.
Well, it's X-ray, right? So it shows density. So you have to figure out how many, first of all, you can carry around, how to stack them on top of each other and tape them, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And just having access to an X-ray machine can show you a lot of things.
That's very cool. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Like this.
So did they buy you a sandwich?
They did not buy me a sandwich. They said, you can go to jail.
That's bullshit, man.
You can go to jail right now or give us all your shit. And I said, oh, you mean your stuff? So it was like
all yours.
Yeah, it's yours. I'm like, you take the $10,000 worth of knives that you're threatening me with and have a good time because I'm not going to jail for shit.
No.
And they were like, cool. Well, you seem like a good dude. I dropped some info on him, so it's kind of let them know that I was like, a good dude and I knew what I was doing.
Legitimate guy, not a terrorist or anything.
Exactly. And they're like, well, it has to go be quote unquote before the crown, which means to a judge apparently in Canada. And we'll let you know. And right when I get home, they're like, well, you can get your stuff back. It's all good. So then I had to UPS it back to myself or send it back to myself. And I had a friend go pick them up from the police station. And I said, just overnight it. I don't want to deal with, I'll pay any amount of money to get them back because I don't want to deal with 10 grand worth of knives floating around the mail, right? So he FedEx, or he UPS or FedEx, I forget, overnights them. And then I get a call from whatever carrier it was, FedEx, UPS, and they say, are you importing knives? Because there's a lot of knives. Are you selling them or they tax on them because you're importing them? I was like, that's my collection. Can I?
I just want my stuff back, bro.
Yeah, so they gave me shit. Yeah, it took a couple of weeks, but I paid for overnight, got it in 2 weeks, but whatever.
Wow.
I learned a hard lesson there.
All right, so this is our last one. But before we move on to the lightning round, this is going to be it. But I asked this question to Ed one time, and that's what brought up the Jaramillo story, which is the second Jaramillo story, which killed everyone. So I'm going to start asking this question to everybody. Is there any question we didn't ask or any crazy story or anything, just any off-the-cuff story that you would like to tell that's just unbelievable?
That you never get the chance
to
tell.
You never told anybody this before because no one's ever asked. So just something insane.
God. So
we should have prepped you for that one. Sorry.
The stories that I could tell you. God, can you bleep out names? If I tell you the names, then it's news.
Yeah, Joe can do it.
Yeah, Joe can do it. Yeah, we can.
Yeah, so we're just gonna make a note.
Name.
The names that you say are gonna be bleeped out.
Yeah.
In editing when we put this whole thing together.
Okay, how about this? I just say a name.
Do you just make up a name?
I'll say a name once so I don't fuck it up and keep saying it over and over. But yeah, I got a pretty good story. It's a very, 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 very famous pop star that I've never worked for.
Oh, even better.
But lived in a neighborhood that I was working in for a lot of years, right? A celebrity-studded neighborhood. And I was on it. I was doing residential stuff. I was doing counter surveillance stuff. I was working with local law enforcement, special units, and doing a lot of training with them and stuff. And I had somebody come steal one of my security cameras on a property I was working at and looking after. And if you ever work at a property and look after a property, you take a lot of pride in it, and no one can fuck with it. That's your castle. It's your domain.
That's your shit.
If someone fucks with you, you just go after them with everything you got because it's just, you can't let it happen.
Yeah.
Because all kinds of weird shit goes through your head. Like, it's going to happen again. Is someone fuck with me? Is someone I know? Is someone being serious? How'd they know that was there? Et cetera. All kinds of shit goes through your head. So someone stole a camera that was actually hidden from really plain sight. You had to look for it. It was hidden in a bunch of shrubs, and they came up from an angle on it and cut it and took off with it. And there was no other camera. Yeah. So I was pissed off because most of my cameras are double covered, so you can see someone going to another camera. It's somewhat, there was an overlap, but it's not possible on a giant property, So they cut it. So I put a camera up within, 3 hours. I had another camera up and I sat on the monitor watching it. come motherfucker.
I'm gonna get this motherfucker.
Come get this one and I will shoot your ass. I was just like ready to go pound on somebody, and just make an example out of them. So I watched this monitor day and night. I'd watch the patterns of people walking by the house, which wasn't high traffic, but I would watch the people and I would time it. I put a timeline together of people going past the camera. Did someone look at the new camera? They look at the new camera. That means they knew where the old one was, right? So I'm just getting weird by myself. If you stare at a monitor over and over and over and you watch surveillance footage, you become weird. I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
And
shit gets weird in your mind.
Yeah, so I saw this dude, right? And he's walking by the house and he's looking straight into my camera. And I'm like, I fucking got you, dude. I fucking got you, right? So I follow this guy. I follow him. He looks straight into my camera, looks down and keeps walking. I run outside. I'm like, yo, dude, what's up? I chase him down like some fucking madman, After like days, almost a week of looking at security footage, there he is. And I'm like, adrenaline, And I'm like, what's up? And he's like, I don't know who you are, dude. I don't know what you want. And I follow him in his car, take his license plate down, and I'm like calling it in and everything else. I'm like, please contact, like, who the fuck is this? I need to know right now. I'm going to follow him. And they gave me a name and information. I start, looking into it and everything else. He takes off. I don't want to chase him because that's illegal, right?
Yeah.
And so I let him go. And I'm like, well, I got your ass if you come back over here. And then all of a sudden, I'm just on it. I'm waiting to see this dude pop up again and steal my camera or do something else. And he comes back, and I see him out in the street again, and there he is. I told him to fuck off and never come back again, even though I can't do that. And he comes back, and I chase him out. I'm like, hey, man, what are you doing here again? And he's like, oh, man, I'm out for a walk. You can't tell me what to do on the sidewalk, yada, yada. and then he gets into a different car, and I call the plate in to my buddy who worked for a police department in Southern California. And he tells me the name, and the name sounds super familiar. And the name was of a celebrity in the area's mother, right? Who I kind of knew. And I was like, why the hell is he getting into this celebrity mom car, right? Like it's some Lexus or whatever. And I'm chasing, and I call the family security because we all talk to each other in the area. I said, hey, listen, there's some creep. I think he stole my camera. He just got into one of your family vehicles, and I ran it. And I'm just putting it on. I'm like, do you know who this person is? I'm describing him and everything else. And he's like, who else did you tell? I'm like, half of LAPD North Hollywood Studio City, man. Like, what are you talking about? Like, all these people are like, I'm like on it, like I'm going crazy over here. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I'll call you back, And he calls me back. It's like, look, we're gonna have to have a talk. Where you at? We meet up. Turns out the celebrity mom is having an affair and sleeping with this dude. And whether or not he stole my camera is besides the point, right?
Yeah.
So it became a thing. Now security knows. Now they're talking to the family. Now the siblings are hearing it. And it just becomes a thing. And then you have a massive Hollywood divorce. One of those things that's on the tabloids and like splatter over the news. It's like on the news, right? Because the TMZ is like the fucking news now. And
all your fault.
And all the people that I was working with were like, "Holy shit, dude! You're like the divorce captain," like they were divorce people. And I never intended for that to happen. I didn't mean to like get weird on people, but he fell into my world and it overlapped. So.
Oops.
There's some things you can't keep quiet, but it was really weird and kind of funny in a weird way.
It's awesome, is what it is.
But it's a massive name. It's like it's a really fucking big name.
That is crazy.
Maybe you'll share it with us once we stop recording.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So last thing we always like to do before we end an interview is we have the lightning round, and the lightning round.
Are you familiar with the lightning round?
Oh,
the lightning round. The lightning round doesn't have to. It doesn't have to do with shit. It's just a bunch of ridiculous, dumbass questions that we make up. We think are kind of funny at the time, and we just go back and forth. So it'll be you, me, Josh, all going to get a chance to answer these questions. So it's just first thing that comes to your head off the cuff, and it's like I'm going to have a couple here. I got 3. Josh has 3, and we're just going to go for broke.
Yeah.
All right, you ready? Because you're going to be up for the first one. All right, so Ryan,
sure.
Do you believe in Bigfoot?
I believe in I believe in Bigfoot. I believe Bigfoot's dick smells. And
I'll take that answer.
You smell like Bigfoot's dick. I live in Idaho. So, of course, in Idaho, it's God's country. Bigfoot would live here.
Naturally.
And at some point, I will find Bigfoot.
Very nice, Josh. Bigfoot.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah?
All day.
Man, I used to really think that there might be something out there, but I'm like, it's just gotten to the point. I'm like, they haven't ever found like anything, I don't know. I want to believe, but my hope is big. My hope is beginning to wane. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm kind of on the.
I mean, it may not be the actual Bigfoot that they think it is, but I mean, there's something out there that everybody thinks is fucking Bigfoot. I mean, come on.
I don't know.
I mean, we still celebrate Christmas and everything else. I mean,
it's the same
Easter
shit.
Bunny. I mean, it's there's a lot of unknowns. I'm saying you can't rule it out, man.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like
true.
that.
Okay, I'll give you that much.
People are scared of the unknown.
What do you think is the worst way to die?
Oh shit!
Like
I'm
the absolute-
weird.
Like the worst way to die.
Fuck. I think slow death would be the worst for me personally. I'm not scared of violent death. I've already drawn out scenarios for myself. I've been in plane crashes and shit. Like I've been in weird like situations where things happen. A lot of violent car accidents. I've been in crazy fights where I should have died. And it doesn't scare me because I don't know why. I just been there and I've touched it a little bit. So I just
You've
come to
poked the
terms
bear a
with-
little bit.
Yeah, but the slow, like when I have friends that are acquaintances that have cancer or or things that are like deep and heavy and drag out to people's lives and ruin other people's lives in a weird way, like that's the worst for me. That's the scariest way to die for me. Like I would jump out of a plane and like just
just end it real quick.
just so everyone can move on, just because I don't know. That's the scariest thing to me.
Yeah.
It's deep and depressing and it sucks, but like for me, that would be horrible for sure.
What you felt?
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna be like on absolutely the same vein, like going out something like dementia or something like that, where it just drags on for years. You've lost your memory, like lost who you are,
and you have no idea what the fuck is going on. Yeah,
right.
That was what I was gonna say.
Yeah, that's the funny thing about that. My dad always says, like, he's like, if I ever get to the point where I'm losing my mind and I don't know who y'all are anymore, just lay me out in the driveway and run over me.
Yep.
Oh shit.
And I'm like, yeah, well, I think that I would probably end up in jail if I laid my dad across the driveway and just backed over him.
Frowned upon a little bit.
Right.
I feel sorry for anyone that's gonna look after me with dementia or something similar because I'm just too big and I get a little wild and like I look crazy and people don't want to deal with that. I would feel bad for anyone that had to deal with that, take care of me. I feel bad for people that have to take care of me when I'm drunk. I'm
sure we'll find that out in April.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
That's the task in itself. I mean, that's like a lifetime thing, So
This is a little bit more, a little bit lighter question. If peanut butter wasn't called peanut butter, what would it be called?
Ooh.
It was a deep
Let
thought.
that one sink in real quick.
There's always the cream. There's always nut cream. Oh, God.
That's where I was going with it too.
Maybe a split nut cream.
Split nut cream. All right.
See, I was gonna go.
They're split.
Yeah, I was
They're
gonna.
split in two.
I was
and they're
gonna go
also
with nut
split in
butter.
segments. Nut butter?
Nut butter. I mean, that's what I call it.
Yeah, I was going to go with peanut cream.
Peanut cream.
Yeah.
Oh,
This guy.
it tastes just like it sounds.
All right. So is a hot dog a sandwich? Why or why not?
What are you doing to me?
I know, right? You're gonna be thinking about this shit for months now. Like,
It's not a
It'll give you
sandwich.
something to do in the hotel room whenever you have another deadbeat client that doesn't want to leave.
Oh, I'll write 20 pages on it. You give me enough time, I'll put a fucking I'll write a thesis on that.
all right.
shit.
Well, in April, we're gonna have you on here again in the studio with us, and you can come up with some shit.
You guys better
We're
get
doing
ready,
that.
man.
All right,
It's gonna get
it's,
weird.
it's on.
Yeah.
So a
you-
hot dog, it's not a sandwich. In the same way that a taco is not a sandwich.
Precisely.
There's meat. There's chopped up or not. It's meat. You know what? A hot dog is chopped up by nature.
Theoretically, yes.
It's ears and assholes, right?
Yeah.
So, and like what?
And maybe some brains.
some teeth. Yeah. So it is chopped up in nature. It's just fused together, right? So, and then it's put into a shell of some sort, right? Like a taco.
Yeah. With that. I would say it's more like I wouldn't call it a sandwich. I would say it's either a taco or more like a sub than an actual like
A
sandwich.
sub is a sandwich. It's like
Yeah,
a submarine
but no,
sandwich.
no. There's a sandwich
It
that has
absolutely-
2 pieces of bread. There's the bottom piece.
Josh, what do they
then
sell
the
at
meat.
Subway?
Fuck you,
Sandwich
Philip.
wraps.
It's not the same. It's a sub. There's a difference.
All right, I'm going to go with a hot dog is a sandwich because definition of a sandwich is 2 pieces of bread with some kind of meat in between
But it's
it.
not 2
sandwich.
pieces of bread.
It is 2
Yeah.
pieces of bread.
It's one.
It's totally 1 piece with
Okay,
a
well
slit
then,
in the middle.
then your argument would be like a loaf of bread is not a loaf of bread until you cut it into pieces. Like you slice bread, right?
You know what
Then
I
it's
think
called
about it?
sliced bread.
Right. It's also
Now that I
called.
think about it,
Yeah.
my ass is 2 buns, and it has a slit, but they're my ass cheeks. So if you say ass cheeks, that's plural.
All right, I'm not
Yeah,
even gonna.
dude,
I'm not
I
even
mean,
gonna go down the road.
I mean-
I'm not even gonna go down the road of what kind of meat is in there.
I don't think
Yeah,
you thought that one
dude.
through.
Yeah, no.
You're
Okay.
right, dude. It is ass cheeks. It's 2 cheeks. There's 2 pieces of. You're fucking right, dude. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's deep too.
Yeah. Literally.
All right, is this the last one? Is this me? Is this the last one, or you got one more?
I got one more. Go
Okay,
ahead.
yeah, here we go.
Yeah.
All right, if you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Here's a funny thing. So I got really into tuna recently. I've been on a diet, as you guys know. I've been trying really hard to cut back my carbs and up my protein. And the easiest thing to eat is tuna fish, right? And I started eating shitloads of tuna. And we the group I'm with now, we travel with our own chef. And he was like, tuna's a migrational fish. You're probably gonna die of mercury poisoning. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Fuck you, man. I'm trying to be
I'm
healthy.
trying to be healthy. Don't tell me that shit, man. Every time you try to do something healthy, you find out the flip side, and you're like, man, is it all bullshit?
Yeah.
So there's one thing that I eat a lot of, and I'm trying really not to, and it's protein bars.
Mm.
And it's like it feeds my soul with the chocolate and the peanut butter goodness and all that stuff, and it probably has a lot of fat in it, but it has no carbs.
Outstanding.
So it's got to be a toss-up between tuna fish and the protein bars. It's not exactly my favorite food in the world, but it's the vibe I'm on now.
Word.
If I had to pick one, it'd be nut butter tacos.
Nut butter tacos.
That just came to
Peanut
me.
butter taco.
Nut butter tacos.
Yeah, that sounds
Peanut butter
disgusting.
taco.
Yeah. I mean, why not?
All right.
You know what? With a little bit of butter and crisp it up, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
The little fish in there. I just watched that movie, Peanut Butter Falcon.
Yeah?
You seen that one?
Not
You seen that
yet.
movie?
Not
Pretty
yet.
fun. You like the peanut butter scene then?
I think I am going to go with turkey.
Yeah. Turkey.
Yeah, turkey. I never got
Smoked?
tired of turkey, man. Just the turkey.
Rotisserie? What are we talking
Yeah.
about?
We're talking
I'm
like
talking about
like
like
Thanksgiving
a
or, like,
Thanksgiving turkey.
sliced?
Yeah, like a Thanksgiving turkey. It has to be like the
deli
whole
style?
bird. The whole bird
If you
stuck
ate-
in an oven, and it's if like every time I open my refrigerator, there was just a giant cooked turkey in there. I'm good to go.
yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's a little variety, a little light meat, a little white meat, a little dark meat every once in a while.
With
Rest-
or without
about
gravy,
two
though,
days.
is the thing.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be in its own natural gravy, right? It's like a Thanksgiving turkey.
Well, I mean,
No, just don't get tired of turkey, man. It's a Thanksgiving turkey, and I just haven't got tired of it yet. I can eat that all the time.
yeah.
So
and
nut
then-
butter and
and then
nut
take a
butter
little
and
nap.
natural
Yeah.
gravy. You guys are sick.
gravy, yes.
You guys are sick.
Wait,
I was
you,
fucking.
you said it and then
turkey
accused us to
thing-
being twisted. What's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, nut butter and gravy aside, the turkey's a little bit dry to me.
Yeah.
I've always liked turkey, but you gotta dunk it.
You
in
gotta
something
have something to stick it in. Like,
and choke.
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing. You're cooking your turkeys wrong because my wife has this thing where she like brines the turkey.
Here
for
we
like,
go.
She like
Oh,
brines it in salt water for like 2 days before Thanksgiving. Puts it in the turkey. Puts the turkey in the oven. Cooks it, and it's awesome all the time. Yeah,
Okay, well,
you take it
we're
and you
gonna-
put it in
we're gonna
salt
have to
water.
see
and
here soon.
You can hit my wife up for the recipe. It's awesome. It's worth
All
it.
right,
Like
well,
it'll change your world about turkey. No more dry turkey.
Okay.
This is not grandma's turkey. You go there and it sticks in your throat, and you got to like wash it down with a glass of water per bite.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
all right, last
I'd
question
like
in the
to-
lightning round.
All right, last question.
All
What
right,
do you got?
Ryan. If you were an alien, who would you abduct?
Well, I'm not a political dude. I'm not
No.
a political dude, but I wish I won't say H. Clint on would go away.
That's not abducting, though. Like, I'm talking like to study them.
Well, don't they rape them and stuff too?
Oh, I don't know. Fuck.
So abduct for studies, or
Yeah.
abduct for get rid of and kill and everything else?
Well, I think that probably if the studies were invasive enough, it might lead to death.
Yeah, it might lead to death. You never know.
No, you're the alien. You can do whatever you
yeah,
want
you
to,
can do
man.
whatever you
Yeah.
want, dude. You know, yeah.
You can like beam them up like Scotty, and then don't let them like rematerialize on the other thing. Just turn off the power as they're in like mid transformation. Do whatever you want to do.
You know what's weird is there's one celebrity that I'm a massive fan of,
Yeah.
and I've come in so many close calls with this guy where I could have said, "Hey, what's up, Denzel Washington," and just shook his hand and been like, "I'm a fan of all your movies, the fucking Man on Fire." That's
Fangirled out for a minute.
Oh, I'm the Man on Fire right here. I'm the Equalizer. I just get, you get drunk in the Equalizer, right? So
Yeah.
that's me. That's my life, And I've always wanted to meet him, and we have mutual friends and everything. And I've done a lot of talk shows and stuff where he was a guest on the same night, and he comes in pre-tapes, and he's never around. He's fucking. You can't see the guy.
He's
I lived in the
elusive as
same
fuck,
city.
huh?
I was in the same city as him for years, and I never saw the dude.
Wow.
And I just always been a massive fan, man. And I would just want to like abduct him and say, "Hey, dude, I just want to kick it and have a beer, make love, what's up?" And that's it, and just chill with
and then put him back in his bed at night.
yeah, and then introduce him to Mike Tyson and then call it a night. You know what I mean?
Steal a tiger and then go to bed.
Very nice. Well, cool, man. It was awesome having you on. Is there anything you want to plug, like any upcoming events, anything you got going on, anything you want to talk about?
The funny thing about what I do is that all the events that I'm doing are on the internet already, and they don't
There you go.
they don't really showcase me. I'll be there, but like you coming or not coming is not going to get me any or less money. You know what I mean? So
No, absolutely. You have anything personally like coming up, like anything from the Fieldworks world on the
you know what?
grams?
There might be some things. I've had a couple of talks with some people about making some knives, like small batch knives.
Yes.
See, that's what I was going for. I
Yes.
didn't know if you'd bring it up. I know that you mentioned that in the past, that was the thing that you were working on. So I didn't know if it was still in the works. So I was going to let you.
Yeah,
throw it
it's a
out
funny
there.
thing, man. There's like elements of knives that I like, and I could pick and choose things from different fixed blades that I really really enjoy and really like. Make sense to me.
Mhm.
And I could just mix match them. It's just at some point things all start looking the same as and you start like going, I wonder if anyone gives a shit. Like I wonder if anyone cares. And you just like about what I think about a knife. I know people think it's cool and fun what I do, and what I do is I think is interesting, right? But as far as the knife making and producing knives, I just wonder how many guys would be into it. But I might feel it out, and see what people think. And
We'll talk
if
later.
people are like, "You suck," then I'll be like, "All right, then let's go away." There's no harm, no foul,
Hey,
So,
you never know till you try.
Yeah.
yeah, and my life won't be hinged on it, So there's no
Absolutely.
stress and there's no weird competition or anything like that. So
Yeah.
the old, yeah.
Very cool.
Cool.
Dude, we definitely appreciate you having you on the show, and it was awesome. And dude, I'm looking forward to meeting you in person in
Definitely.
April.
In April. Yep.
Yeah, you guys make sure you rest your livers. Make sure you lock your fridge, and I will be in. And I need somewhere to stay, so tell
We'll
everyone
figure
you
all
know
that
that you love to go away for a couple of days because it's gonna get weird.
Outstanding.
All righty. Well, if you're not following him, check out Fieldworks on the grams. And Josh, what do you got going on with Offensive Industries?
We just released the Rook, and we're getting ready to release some more glow shit. So just stand by
Very
to stand
nice.
the fuck by.
Always cool. And also, guys, remember, check out Corvus Combatives on the Instagram
Yeah.
as well, because we got some cool stuff coming up. Ed Calderon,
Classes.
Ed's Manifesto coming back to town for Urban Movement in April, so that's going to be a blast. I'd also like to take a second to thank our newest sponsor to Condition Red Radio, and that is Modern Outdoor Adventures. If you're not following on Instagram, check them out. They've got the coolest gear that you've ever seen, and they've got everything, ammunition, firearm accessories, knives, flashlight. What else they have, John? I mean, it's a ton of stuff. Like
Shirts, patches. I mean, they've got it all.
yeah,
dude.
man, it's a ton of stuff, and
All kinds of tactical treats.
yes. So anytime you ever need anything within the tactical realm, that should be your first stop. So check out the guys at Modern
Definitely.
Outdoor Adventures. They're going to be doing a lot more stuff with us at Condition Red Radio in the coming podcast. And then we've also got somebody else who's helping us out.
Yeah, we've got Barely Tactical is our second sponsor, and they are huge in the t-shirts and stickers world right now. They're also coming out with patches. Their new thing they're doing right now is they actually make these polos. It's fucking awesome, Philip. They have these polos, and it's the polo design, like the Ralph Lauren design, but they took the Polo Club away and they put a fucking AR-15 in the dude's hand.
Very nice.
So it's very low key, but it's also very fuck you 2A. It's awesome.
Very nice. It's kind of that subtle.
Yeah, it's great. So go check out Barely Tactical. Their website is barelytactical.org, and Barely Tactical is their Instagram. So go check them out and give them a follow and buy their shit too.
Very cool. All right, guys.